Hey everybody, all this. Okay. All right, so my name is Claire Byrne. I currently work at Drone Deploy as a group product manager for the last 2.5 years. I worked at Calabro, which was an enterprise AI agent builder. And then I spent 6 months doing AI integrations and building myself. I've built about 8 or 9 agent or AI apps, and I've ripped out a few as well. By no means an expert, and I think you'll find from David and I's talk in our chats earlier, this industry and this space is moving so fast. So what I'm really endeavoring to do tonight is to share some of the techniques that I use that hopefully you can take away and try out at home and in your professional life. Already, the techniques that I use for a startup idea 3 months ago are out of date and being superseded by the technology. Already, most of the technology that the startup built that we worked on for 2 years has been superseded by agent swarms and multi-agent apps and all kinds of things. So I'm really hoping to share with you a curiosity of trying new things, what's out there, some techniques, and to really give it a go. Admittedly, we could have done this talk a couple of months ago, and so now already the practice of vibe coding has been superseded by context engineering, and so we're kind of bringing the two together. I'm going to focus more on the 0 to vibe coding and then starting to bring in a bit of context engineering, and David's more going to talk on the technical side. So hopefully maybe that's a good opportunity to have a show of hands. Who here has vibe coded or coded their own app using AI? Stick your hands up. That's awesome. That's about 50%. That's great. All right. So I guess starting off, just the basics, like what is vibe coding? So a lot of the different models like Claude and ChatGPT started releasing functionality a few months ago. Actually, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Just make sure there wasn't.
Yeah. Mostly. I'm going to move to doing some things, showing what does and doesn't work shortly, and that's why I'm not showing some slides.
I expected you to go the landscape.
All good. Yeah, so vibe coding, these new capabilities came out that allow you to create an app from just a prompt, which is awesome. So there's tools like Lovable, Tempest, Windsurf, Replit, Bolt, the list goes on. The one that I'm going to share with you tonight that I quite like is called Replit. And Replit, why I've chosen that one is it has a backend capability. So the talk that I did 2 months ago at a webinar with product managers, I was showing how I built my own Airtable backend, used their API documentation to call that data in and did it with Claude Code. And now I wouldn't even need to do that. I would just use Replit and it would just figure that out for me. And that all sounds awesome because from an idea, I can literally create my perfect app. But we're all product managers or in this space here. And you know that getting the perfect app or a business-ready app or one that works for real people and real use cases isn't just about making it look good or look like the thing. There is a lot of layers that go into it that help us to get those high subject matter specific. We find that very quickly we start to hit these ceilings of it's not behaving the way that I expected, and really this comes back to the fact that we haven't actually given it the full context.
Right, Chelsea was having some audio issues, so just bear with us for a moment while we just swap microphones. Can I just put that on? Just down there for now, so not too far away. Just swap the microphones over. Right, let's try saying something.
Hello, hello.
You can hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, right.
Better?
Carry on.
All right. So I want to do a little bit of a demo, two different ways of creating an app. One being vibe coding, where just with a prompt, we're going to just follow and see where the vibe takes us and just give it feedback iteratively. And as I do this, I want to show you some new cool tools that some of these I even found myself in the last week, because every other day these companies are launching new features. And then secondly, I'm going to do the same experiment and actually build context both on the fly and in a controlled way to help get a better outcome. And ultimately, these are the stepping stones that you can use to get to like a really pro level of context engineering that David's going to share. So I don't know if you all know that there is actually a sneaky way of coding apps in ChatGPT called the canvas. There's an equivocal way of coding apps up and seeing them immediately, and Claude and Gemini just launched theirs like literally today. They're called slightly different things. In ChatGPT, it's called the canvas. If you choose to invoke it down under Canvas, you're telling it that you're wanting to go into app building mode. So I thought it might be fun to try and build a to-do list tracker and gamify it and make it disco themed. I'm going to use a cool tool called Whisper Flow that I've also just started using, that allows me to speak to my computer and just have it go into the text box. And in previous demos, I was holding up my phone, talking to Claude, then copying that from the desktop, bringing it over, handballing it to Gemini, bringing it over to ChatGPT, which the reason why I'm doing things with so many AIs is because you get one working and then you're instructing the next one and the next one. So in here, hey, ChatGPT, I would like to code up a task tracking app that has a disco theme and is like a disco dance floor, and it's gamified. Boom, let's vibe code. Here we go. And straight away, it is building an app. So I really haven't given it much context at all, but I think the last presentation I did was to build an app in 5 minutes. I think that this might actually go faster than that now. So hit the preview. Boom, we have a task tracking disco themed app. Does it work? Woohoo! And I can keep dancing. Cool. All right, so a few techniques that I use when vibe coding and working with AIs generally is one of them is reflecting. And reflecting with a persona. So I don't know about you, but this doesn't really feel like something that I would want to take to market at my startup. So I might give it some feedback and ask it to actually embody. Hey ChatGPT, can you embody an Apple UX designer and critique this prototype and give me some actionable feedback? Here we go. So you can invoke the personas of literally any profession and preempt whether it be your boss or your UX designer and bring those in. And now that they have given me some insights, which I'm just vibe coding, so I'm not going to read this. I'm just going to go implement it. Woohoo! Now it is going to implement it. So one thing I found, which was not super intuitive with ChatGPT's Canvas Builder, was you actually have to stop the live preview and regenerate it. They don't tell you that. You're just like, why isn't it changed? All right, that's done. So let's preview what has it done. I had alluded to that there's many tools that you can use to do the same job. My personal preference for this is Claude. I find that it is more proactive and faster, but in saying that, I'm quite often running many different agents and windows at once because there's always a wait time. This kind of waiting is not uncommon. But in the meantime, we can think about what else might happen with my app. So assuming how amazing this app is now that it has embodied a Apple UX designer and perfected the UX out of the box, I've shown it to you all and you think, hey, this is great. Like, I really want to use Claire's Disco themed task tracker app. So now I'm like thinking, how do I productionize this? How do I give it a backend? How do I let people use it? I don't know, but we do have a super intelligent AI right in front of us. And why don't we just ask it? Hey, my friend wants to use this app. Actually, there might be multiple friends. How do we make it so there's a login and they can save their tasks? Okay. And let's just give it another real doozy because I'm just going to give it all of my instructions. How about a backend for it and make sure that there's SSO? And stop what you're doing and start working my backend task. So I've simultaneously, if you imagine this in real life, I'm getting the backend guy to start before he's even got any proper specifications. We've got the designer who's running around really having no idea what the scope of this app is. And the front-end developer who spun up a great prototype is wondering why the thing still isn't working. And not surprisingly, this is where vibe coding reaches a point of hitting a ceiling for many various reasons. One of them you'll find in different models as of where they are, you tend to hit a point where they can't support it and they start giving you instructions of what to do here. And that may be something that you're comfortable to do. I would be comfortable to create a Supabase or set up a GitHub or an Airtable, whereas for some people, they're totally not ready for that step off and hand over to another tool. And at this point, when it's saying, hey, use Supabase, it's given me a bunch of instructions, which is awesome. And I do recommend, working with my AI guidance has helped me to be more technical than I ever have been. At the same time, we live in a time when this is literally like the least smart AI that we're ever going to use. So it's only going to make it easier and easier to the point where we're never going to see this. So I'm confused. I think we're all confused about where we add the most value, but certainly in engineering context. So it's told us how to use Supabase. My thing has crashed, and this is why I don't use ChatGPT's Canvas. But it is there for anyone to start prototyping with. And when you start to work with the AI tooling, the cost can easily add up. So you end up having to really pick and choose what tool set you're going to use, whether it be personally or professionally. All right, so we'll stop that experiment and we'll say, hey, let's take this over to Replit and see if that can do a better job. So just going to copy what we started with. So this is Replit. So Replit's going to look a bit more technical, and it's because it's got a lot more IDE look, which is the, someone help me, is basically what Cursor is. It's the more technical tooling to be able to zoom in on different parts of it. Largely though, you're getting a lovable Bolt windsurf-like experience where it'll build an app for you. I won't cause ChatGPT. So I guess the question is, like, why would you go to a ChatGPT or a Claude, and why wouldn't you just go to a Replit? And I guess as each model has these capabilities, and you can use where you're doing your work usually, and the agent that you have come to love, whose personality you like, who responds better like Claude does, and then you can quickly validate what it's going to look like before you move into those tools and start occurring charges. So you can see with Replit, what they do is they create a preview, which gives you a bit of an idea as to whether you want to commit to a whole build with them. And from there, I can then approve it and get it working. So you can see this exposes a lot more of the things it's doing in the background to reach that build. And it's come up with a pretty interesting UI. Definitely a lot more thought has gone into this, definitely not from me. And I'm like, hey, it looks like it knows what it's doing. Let's approve that plan. So in the meantime, I'm going to let this build. And as I mentioned with Replit, there's two key things which I liked about it that will soon be feature matched by the others, but they have a backend capability, so it can build that out, and also it has a deployment function. So one of the challenges that people had in Lovable is that you can get it to a point and then they're just like, cool, now you go figure out Heroku or Vercel or all of this complicated stuff that honestly, I had never tackled that challenge before in my professional life. There was always people to do that. So now it has created this really cool disco task generator. And I don't know about you, I think it's kind of missed the mark, but honestly, I didn't put a lot of attention into defining the mark in the first place. So I want to switch over and use that same experiment of building a gamified disco task tracker, but actually give it some context that I've created on the fly to help get a better outcome. So context is a huge thing to try and define, and it can mean a lot of things depending on the task that you're doing. If you're wanting to get the agents to help prototype, then that can be building context to build design assets or to prototype or to create a component library or to build your brand. In a more technical setting, that can be providing like very specific documents that outlay the development tools that you use, the way that you deploy. And I spent 2.5 years at Calabria working on different ways to get that to be effective, from like how you ask and what you give it at what time. What's happened in the last 2.5 years as these models get more and more intelligent is they're baking those hacks and things that work out of the experiments that they're doing into the models themselves, so that they're just incredibly effective out of the gate. So one of the challenges that we have in trying to stay current with AI knowledge is almost the insights that I give you now will be the base model's behavior in 3 to 6 months. Similarly, when we used to worry about hallucinations, that's now not really a thing that you have to worry about. And similarly, I've heard that a lot of people are championing to Claude Code and to Cursor to get these context engineering features built in. I think generally being aware of what's happening under the hood does allow you to be a really powerful master user with AI. All right, so in terms of building context, so there's a few techniques that I like to use. I've been using context engineering and these techniques to build out first versions of startup ideas and then share them with friends. So one of the super easy ones that I like to do in a greenfield scenario is actually get the AI to interview me. So I'll say, hey, Claude, I'm looking at building out my startup idea. It's going to be a to-do list tracker, disco themed, gamified. It's going to be awesome. What are some things that I need to consider in this so that I can have a winning product? Here we go. So now it is going to start to think as an expert in that topic, and it has not created an interview for me. I don't think I asked that. Can you create an interview for me so that I can get what's in my head out and use that as context for an AI? So here, this will allow me to literally just sit and chat answers to these questions that will help to shape that context very quickly. This technique I use all the time, especially, I don't know if you've had this happen where you like forget to transcribe a meeting and then you need to recount what happened. Or similarly, you're building a new product or tackling a new market. This can be a really easy way to get this out of your head because it's thought through all those different lenses. And so I would sit and chat with it, answer these questions, blah, 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 give it there. And then I would ask it, so I'm just going to cheat here and say, I'm doing a demo in front of a bunch of people. Can you just create a synthetic set of answers that I can use and then turn that into a document that I can use to train the AI and create a PRD off. So this is totally cheating. But I want some synthetic data to use really quickly. Cool, our product name is Groove Task. Get your productivity groove on. Cool. So this is totally just astroturfing some data to use, but from here, I can use this to start seeding a PRD. So in an organizational setting, you will have documents that you can use for this. You can just chuck in a bucket of them and get it to create that first version, get it to reflect as a systems engineer and say what's going to be missing here, or reflect as a product manager or a strategic marketing manager, like what are the gaps. Have it zoom in really quickly on those gaps so that when you feed it up to a PRD to do context engineering and get a great outcome, like there's no gaps there. Another one that I find is super easy to do is, and I'm not going to use the same example, but this is just one that I really like. So this is a Figma. So I was acting as a UX designer a couple of years ago and totally not wanting to pay for Figma, so I just did really bad wireframes. I was just dropping boxes on, and now I really actually want to use this and build out a new set of wireframes and app screens for them. So I could really sit and translate it into Figma. It'd take a really long time, but I can quickly take screenshots of things and say, sorry, this works in literally any of them. I'm going to do it in Claude. Load a file. And say, can you make a component library that is inspired by these screenshots that I can use to train an AI? So while that's working, you can see how that technique is just gold in terms of being able to emulate and mimic really awesome styles out there, and then use that to pull into your prototype or into the apps that you're building. I'm conscious of time, so I want to jump to what I was able to create with Replit, where I was context engineering, where I used my I had a picture from a literally disco theme. It was you imagine a disco dance floor. I took that, I asked it to act as an Apple UX designer. I critiqued it as a head of product. I got it to reflect on it, and then we built it end to end. I was super happy with the outcome, and we have one disco check clear Replit app. Please load. Woohoo! All right, so here is my gamified disco dance floor tracker app. I can add a task, do a demo, send emails. I save them, I check them off, and magic happens. And fantastic. Obviously, I have already coded the backend because it's with Replit. I've deployed it, and this was all done in the space of about an hour with these like on the fly context engineering techniques that I've shown, and there is a bunch more. We just don't have enough time. You can get really, really professional outcomes, and it's also really fun.
Right, everyone, just bear with us for a moment while we do a presenter switch.
Great. Do I share my screen?
Yeah, you can share the screen. Bottom one.
I just want to share the entire screen.
Yeah. Yeah, so that.
Too easy.
Right, can you share that?
Yes. Right, smooth as. Awesome.
Right.
We're good. Hello, everyone. My name is David Malpass, and I won't spend a lot of time introducing myself, actually. You can look at my LinkedIn profile if you're interested, because I've got a lot to get through. Awesome stuff, Claire. I think it will really build on the stuff that you've just spoken about. I will say that this is unapologetically a little bit technical. So for the technically minded people in the room, hooray. For those that maybe are less technically minded, hopefully there's still something here for you. And I'll share it with you later, and I'd encourage you to give it a try, because I think I'm not a technical person. I've learned by doing, and I think that you can too. So I want to talk a little bit about product managers becoming context engineers, but I think to do that, it probably helps to have a bit of a definition of what context engineering is. And so there are many different ways to describe it, but the way that I sort of visualize it is it's the art form of giving information in a structured way to a large language model so you get predictable results. That's really important. Like, you can give unstructured data to large language models and get all sorts of random results, but you don't want that. You want to be able to predict exactly what's going to come through. So that is context engineering. And I have sort of developed, or developing, I suppose, this is the first run out today, a bit of a framework to think about context engineering. And I want to sort of take you through that. I think that this framework, I'm going to show you it in a software engineering sense, but it would be applicable anywhere you are trying to manage a large language model context. But the thing about software engineering is that the result is very binary. Like, the software works or it doesn't work. Your vision is met or it's not met, and so it's a really good way to test out some of these sort of concepts. So my framework is a three-part framework. I love frameworks, by the way. They just help me sort of structure my thinking. Part one is the building blocks. So the what you have to play with. basically the blocks. Part 2 is the workflow. So how you want the agent to build. Like, you will have some vision of how it should work, and you can put that into the context. And then finally is the task context. So the why of what you're trying to build. So those 3 things are what you need. Today, I'm going to give you a bit of a demo of it as well. I don't have long enough to step you through the entire process, but I'll get it started, and then I'll show you some things that I have built earlier. I am going to show you Claude Code, but I want to make it really clear that the techniques that I'm going to show you are not exclusively for use with Claude Code. Any capable AI coding agent, Replit, which Claire has just shown, Lovable, Bolt, they all will, if you apply this framework, you'll get good result, I believe. I'm going to do a bit of a setup. I have, so this is a demo, no slides. I have created a little GitHub repository here and some instructions on how to install it, and I'm going to walk through that with you. So it is a complete stack. So it has everything you need to get a development environment up and running. You will need some tools. I use Claude Pro. That's my coding agent model of choice, or Sonnet 4 actually, not Claude Pro, but Claude Pro is how I get access to it. I like to use an IDE, an integrated development environment. I'll show you why, but I think it's really nice to be able to see visually what's happening. VS Code is free, so your minimum price of entry is $40. That does come with some rate limits. You can upgrade your IDE to Cursor. That would be another $40. We're up to 80 now. And if you want to get rid of those pesky rate limits, you're looking at sort of $240 a month. So this is an advanced technique. Some of those other tools are definitely cheaper. It goes even higher. Claude Max is the maximum model is $400 a month. There are some prerequisites. I'm not going to go into too much detail of them, but you'll need to install these on your computer. You'll need Node downloaded and installed, Git, an IDE, so Cursor or VS Code, and Claude Code. I'm not going to explain how to do that. Ask ChatGPT, it will do a much better job of explaining it to you than I will. And then you need to open up Terminal and run some commands. These ones here, they basically run each line individually. The first one clones the repo, which is what we're looking at, down to your local machine. The next one's disconnect it from my repo and create your own local Git repo. And then it installs a bunch of packages, and then it runs dev. I have done that. You do it in Terminal, which you find is this little guy here, or if you start Spotlight and you write Terminal, comes up here, that little guy there. I've already got it running, and I've done all those awesome things, and I've just got the last one, which is npm run dev. So if I do that, fingers crossed, demo guys are with me, that started the dev environment. So Replit will do all that for you, by the way. You don't need to go through all that hassle, but I think this is about 3 minutes, so it's worth the investment. To explain why I like Claude Code, it's a bit like why I like drinking Guinness in Dublin, or an Austrian lager in the Swiss Alps. I like, these things taste better closer to the source, in my experience. And Sonnet 4, which is the underlying model, you can get it in Replit, you can get it in Cursor, you can get it in Lovable and Bolt, but just the way that Claude Code has integrated it with the tools and presumably the system prompts that they've given it, it just works slightly better, marginally better, in my experience. Very subjective or objective, which we've one of those memes, not based on science. But it's marginal gains, and it is technically a little bit more complicated. So that is why I choose Claude. But that's running now. If we jump back to here, I can go and have a look at that thing. So it's running on localhost on my local machine. And here it is. So mastering context engineering. I mentioned that there are 3 types of context. So there is the building blocks, which we'll get into now, but then there's also workflow context and task context. I'm going to go through them one at a time. Just to talk a little bit about this environment, it's like prototype ready is what I have called it, not production ready. I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to pretend it's production ready, but it has a bunch of stuff in it that means you can build really powerful prototypes and probably your side hustle if you're interested using this stack. But it has front-end components, it has back-end integrations, it has UI components, it has state management, it has testing, and it's all built in TypeScript. Again, Lovable or Bolt or Replit will just give you this out of the box, but so did this. This only took 3 minutes to set up, and it gives you all that power of Claude Code. So it's great that that's all running, but what about the context? How do we tell Claude about all of that? So let's get into an IDE. So this is Cursor. Again, it's a fork of VS Code. The bits I'm going to show you today are just the VS Code bits, not the Cursor bits. An IDE is an integrated developer environment, and really it's simple. There's a file explorer here, there's an editor here, and then on the side, this is the cursor bit actually. So this is the agent that you can talk to. Why I like and still keep Cursor is because under here, it gives you access to all the models. So if Claude's not playing game today, I can have a go with O3 or Gemini 2.5 Pro or ChatGPT 4.1. And when Gemini 3 or ChatGPT 5 launch next week, they'll probably show up here on day 0. But that's it. We're going to say goodbye to Cursor right now, and I'm just going to talk through what Claude does. So I mentioned that context with regards to the building block, so how to build. So this is claude.md. This file gets added to every chat or agent session when you start a conversation with chat, and it basically just describes the technical building blocks to that relate to that architecture that I just described you. So it's saying how to plan, it's saying how to run the environment, it's saying how to test, it's saying what the route structures are, it's saying what the architecture is, how to authenticate, basically giving it all that context it needs in order to build something. So it's not starting from scratch. It gives a really good understanding. This is just the technical building blocks, but technically you could put the UX building blocks in here as well. Anything that you want to persist from session to session to session. And in fact, from project to project to project, this is something that doesn't move or change or changes infrequently. So this is your building blocks context, and every chat session with this gets it. The next type of context is workflow context, and to demonstrate that, I'll show you how it works. So if I bring up that README again, this is now on my local machine, so I'm not looking at GitHub, I'm looking at my local machine, but it's the same content as you will see, and we've done that, and we're up to the workflow part. So here, you're basically telling Claude how you like to operate, and I like to operate in a, this is not revolutionary, create a plan, iterate through that plan, building, and then when you're happy with it, ship. So I've created some slash commands, which you can think of as like custom GPTs in the GPT context that help it do that. So let's show you that working. So this instruction set, oh, hang on, go back there. I need 2 hands. This is the instruction that I'm going to cut and paste into Claude. It's really need more space. And then it says run Claude there in terminal, but actually I've got it integrated with my ID, so I just need to click there. This starts a terminal window, and lovely old Claude comes in. So I'm just going to paste that first command. It's my plan command, and then it will start planning. So this is the prototyping use case. So this instruction is basically build a walking tour add-on into a purchase flow, and I'm just going to get it to go. And now let's go and look at how I give it that context. So these slash commands live in here. So Claude commands and plan. If we look at that one, you can see it's it's plain English, but it just describes how I want it to plan. So I'm saying take either the description, which is what I just gave it, or you can give it a PRD, and it has a little bit of extra instruction on how to process a PRD, and then create a plan. Oh, now that's Claude just saying, can I edit a file? And I'm going to say, yes, you can. and then normal service will be resumed. And then I'll give you an example of what a plan looks like. So it gives you an overview with what, why, type, source, success criteria, links the requirements if it needs to, and then this sort of checkbox plan format, which is really important. Like, I want it to be able to mark down what it has done. So it's finished. Thanks, Claude. Perfect timing. Sometimes it takes ages. It said it's created a plan, and it's and it's saying that I can start my next command. So it's called a walking tour add-on prototype. So I'll start the build one because it takes some time, and then we can go and look at the plan it's created. So walking tour. Oh, you got to get the name right. You might not need to get the name right, actually. It might be smart enough to figure it out, but let's not test. So now this is building the first iteration, but let's go and look at that workflow context. So the build one, we just looked at that. Oh, actually, let's look at the plan. Sorry, that was what I was going to do next. Let's look at this plan that it's built. So it's taken that sentence and it's given me a why, and then it's broken it down. Sorry, it's begging for my attention. I'm just going to let it go because I want it to finish one of these. I think it's useful to see it. It's broken it down into a bunch of tasks. So task one, create hotel booking checkout page with tour add-on sections. That's what it's working on at the moment. Let's have a look at that build command. And you can sort of see, again, it's natural language. It's describing my workflow. It's saying, read the plan, and you give it the name of the file. It says check if a server's running, check if there's any existing components or dependencies that I want to use. I don't want it running away and installing new stuff. Just use what it's already got. It's got some instructions here. It's got, really crucially, a validation loop. This is probably overkill for a prototype, but when you start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, a classic vibe coding trope is, I changed this thing over here and it broke everything over there. In fact, it's not vibe coding, it's just coding. But if I get it to build unit tests from the start, Claude's clever enough to go, oh, look, I built that. Oh, it broke that thing over there. I'll fix that thing over there. And now I'm going to report back to Dave and say it's all working. So getting these unit tests running right from the start is really important. Man, it's going fast today. It's already on to the testing. So it's finished that first increment. Oh, it's failed. It's found some errors, which is good. We want it to find errors. And then crucially, this is the bit that really makes the magic happen. It updates the plan. It goes into the plan. It checks it off. But then it adds implementation detail to it. And this plan becomes a living document that you pass from context window to context window to make sure that it's got exactly the right information it needs to complete the next task. Perhaps to really demonstrate that, I will pull up another one. So here's one that's finished. It's actually the same prompt. I started with the same prompt. And you can see here, it's checked it off, and then it's saying, I've created all these pages, I added all these tests, I established these patterns, and then the next task. And so it's building up this like living history of what it's done. And so context engineering is really about managing context windows and only putting exactly the right amount of information into that context window to get that predictable result that you want. So I'm giving it the building blocks context, how to build, the Legos, and I'm giving it the plan, the instructions, the Lego instructions. Here's how to build it. And also it's keeping a track of what it's doing. Let's go back and have a look to see how it's going. It wants to run tests again. Let's go. So you now iterate through that plan, or I can now iterate through this plan. It's catching bugs. By just giving it that same build command over and over again, I can, that one there, over and over again. It will find things. I'm making this seem like it's magic. It's not. It will find things. You'll have to interact and tell it, don't do that, do this. Things will break. It's more of a conversation. But fundamentally, once it's finished every task, you just actually, there's another command. You clear. So you clear the context window. I would then also do a git commit. So that's my save game. If the next one goes haywire, I can just reload my old save game and go again. And then after I've done those two things, I would kick off the next iteration. So build walking tour add-ons. So that is my first two parts of context engineering. So you've got your building blocks and your how you work. The next part is the task context. So the why of what you want to do. And I feel like this works in two modes. There's first mode, which is sort of exploration mode, which is really what I showed you there, where you give it something not very complex, a bit like what we're calling, your disco work tracker. You just give it like here's something basically what I want to do. That's really useful, I think, because when you give it that loose description, you really get to leverage the generative powers of AI. It will come back and solve things or present things that you haven't thought. The same /plan prompt will generate 5 different prototypes. And I would argue that's a good thing, because you go and test all 5 of those prototypes, you'll find the good pieces of all of them. You then pack that up into a lovely little PRD, and then you go on to execution mode, which I will quickly just show you here, which is similar, but instead of giving it that one-line description of what you want to build, you give it a proper PRD. Here, again in the README, so you'll get this if you take a look. You can just give it a PRD. So there's a link to somewhere which will make PRDs, or you can just use your own PRD. Frankly, it doesn't actually matter what the format is. It will figure it out. But once you've got the PRD, you put it into this folder, docs requirements, and you go plan, and then just save the file, and then it's the same process. It will create a plan, but this time it will be really strictly sticking to what you have told it to do in the PRD. So here's an example here of a PRD that I created for this demo. It's for a project called Fresh Local. No one steal this idea, by the way. This is my idea. It's a local marketplace app where grocery stores and customers can sort of connect and buy discounted food before it goes off. I actually think that's already an idea. And it's got some core features. It's got the user flows. It's got the data model that I want it to follow. It's got some mock data. It's got some UX, UI requirements. But all that will now go into that plan, and it will check through that, checking back to this PRD. But that is this concept of task context. So there's sort of exploratory task context where you don't give it too much and you just see what happens. And there's execution task context where you get very specific, and then it gives you what you want off the back of it. I'm going to quickly do a few more things, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions. Is that all right? Go. So I just want to show you. So this is the prototype that first prompt created. This is the walking tour add-on for your software company. You can see here I can select Amsterdam. I can say I want to arrive today. Because let's pretend that I can teleport there. There's only one of me. Search hotels. Brings back. Oh, I think the Grand Amsterdam looks nice. I'll click that one. And I'm feeling a bit flushed, so I'm going to go for the executive suite. Oh, look, a walking tour. I hadn't thought about going on a walking tour. I wonder what that's like. And yep, I might book that for Wednesday. And actually, I'm going to take my mate because he's there as well. And now I can continue to payment. And this is sort of like a fully fledged prototype. Here it's got all the numbers, and it just matches. I think Marty Kagan says it needs to be realistic enough that you'll suspend disbelief. This is so realistic that I'm worried about putting my credit card details into it, frankly. This took me about 2 hours to make, so I don't want to sort of, this it's not straightforward. It takes some time, but probably would take longer to build the Figma prototype, I suspect. I don't know. I'm not good at Figma. So that is the first one. The second thing, or what I want to show you now, is probably some tips and tricks. So I've showed you, my framework for how I context engineer, but let's just do some plain vibe coding tips and tricks. Here's a good one. Oh no, it's an error. You'll get this a lot. So a really great way to solve this, in my experience, is just to feed. Oh, don't want that one. I want. Hang on. was trying to get the console up. So feed a picture of it. I don't want that. Go away. It doesn't want emojis. Feed a picture of the error code and what's in the console. There we go. And put it into Claude. So this is another example of task context. So the task now is to fix this error, but it has that building blocks context of what the stack is. So it should be pretty good at fixing it. So this is that grocery one that I showed you. I'm going to fire up Claude. Hi, Claude. Good to see you again. It's been a few days, a few hours, a few minutes. I'm going to chuck the image in. A little tip for you, it's Control-V in Claude, not Command-V for some reason. Not sure why. Should talk to the product manager. And I'm going to say, hey, there's probably a good technical reason that the product manager is railing against right now. I'm getting this error. Please resolve. So it's going to use the picture for task success, task context, and it's going to use the building blocks, the Claude, to figure out how it works. And it's going, yeah, I can see that problem. I can see the file. I can see the issue. Let me fix this. I just need to reorder the code. It's doing the funny thing where it asks me if I want. Of course I want you to change it, Claude. I trust you intrinsically. Do what you like. It's not even a joke. And then if we go back here, magic moment, hey, there it works. So that went and fixed that, and you can see that. Now the two more things that I want to demo. One is connecting it to a backend. So this stack, this is built on the stack. It has the ability to connect to a backend. It also has demo mode, so it's currently got demo mode turned on. Connecting it to the backend is as simple as firing up Superbase. This is the instructions that ChatGPT was trying to tell you before. Firing up Superbase, I've created a project in here in Data API. You've got a URL, and then in here you can get some API keys. If I now go to my my project, there's a thing called an environment file. This sounds very technical, but I just got Claude to explain to me how to do it. I'm not a technical person. If I add those environment variables here and save this file, and then go back to my demo, Superbase auth enabled. So it's as simple as putting those environment variables into your project, and it works. Now I can log in using the live DB, and the password's password, and Chrome is going to hate me. Watch. It's going to go, what are you doing? There it is. Sorry, Chrome. So that's now integrated with a backend. So that's just auth, but Superbase does databases, it does data stores, it does even, I think, edge functions. So there's heaps of really powerful stuff you can do there. The last thing I want to show you is how to do that deployment. So the one thing that I haven't demonstrated in this is I've connected the local Git that I created to a remote repository, and then I've connected a tool called Vercel to my GitHub repository, and it's as simple as this. I go add new, I go fresh local is that repo, so I'll go import, I go environment variables, I'll copy and paste those things from Superbase in here if I wanted it to be live, which I probably would. And I click deploy, and it runs a deploy, creates a package, puts it online, and then you've got a live URL. So in closing, checking notes, making sure I covered all my points. I think there are those three dimensions are really important to context engineering. So the building blocks, the workflow, and then also the task context. So you may have only thought about that task context, but I'd say those other two are just as important to get the agent to do what you want. This framework, even though I've shown it to you in Claude, it could work anywhere, those three basic concepts, and I would recommend you trying them. Try them in Claude if you want. I'll share this repo, you can have a go with it. Or try it in your favorite tool. And then finally, as I say, I will share this repo with you, and I encourage you to have a go. I don't think it matters how technical you are. What I would suggest is take the URL, copy and paste it into ChatGPT, and say, ChatGPT, walk me through setting this up, and I think you'll get quite far. That's it.
Right, Cliff, I can get you to come up as well for the Q&A. So there was a comment online, like this one from Ross, just when you put that screenshot in, he said, oh my God, you just saved me hours. So that screenshot debugging technique definitely hit a mark there. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, if you're online, please put questions into the chat. We don't have any questions yet. Any questions from the room?
Hey, Alex.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, thanks for acknowledging the fact that we're all confused about how we're going to add value in the chat. On that note, can either of you give an example of how you've used AI to kind of take on the persona of product roles, and how good is it at doing that? I've been playing a bit with it myself, but I want to hear.
So the question was just need to remember to repeat the question for the people online is how have you gone about using AI to take on the persona of a product manager or another actor in sort of the development kind of area?
Yeah, so I am a product manager, so I don't get it to take on the persona of product managers, so I sort of know how that works. But I do get it to take on personas of a tech lead or an architect. I've got like a very complicated thing that I've built. It's thousands and thousands of lines of code, and I use Gemini heaps as like my my sort of technical person that I bounce ideas from. I get him to check my code, and he's awesome. I love Gemini 2.5. So I definitely do use agents and roles, but just not as product managers. I use them as because I know how to do that in theory.
Yeah, so I do have a agent set up as a product manager. I use it to parallel. Okay.
Yeah.
I use it to it's a word that I can't say, but parallelize my work. So what I do when I start a new project is I'll set up in a project space. It's called projects or spaces projects. And I'll give it a persona, something product manager, and then I'll prime it with the generally you are a technical product manager or you're a marketing focused product manager, and then I'll give it the core knowledge that it needs to be effective in answering in that space. And any task that I start, I use it to scaffold out very, very quickly so that I can jump straight in to reviewing a first draft. And so when say that I've got like multiple agents running, I'm like, okay, I've got to write a PRD for a thing. Here's like what I know, like stand up the first draft for me. Now I'll move on to like the next task, come back, and that saved like a bunch of time. So I tend to have like shadow PMs set up for each project.
From my long
Not a question, just a request. Can you put up your Git address, please?
Yeah, what's the best place to...
We'll share it as a comment in the meetup groups.
Yeah.
Thanks to both of you that opened up a whole bunch of opportunities to actually keep on working. But just one comment, you might want to rotate your IPs.
Yeah, that's just a... Yeah, I did. It's only half of the API key, but even then, I think if you're really clever, you're halfway there, right? Thankfully, it's a throwaway project, and I will be turning it off tonight. Yes, that's right.
So it's just for the benefit of the people online, the comment was there just about rotating the API keys we were making public, and yes, generally, I think using ChatGPT to search for API keys that people have put into public GitHub repositories is a thing. So yeah, so just if you don't know how to deal with that situation, just ask ChatGPT for help.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Question from John.
Yeah, hi. So any good product manager, think deeply about their customers, and we come up with customer profiles, jobs to be done to customers. So I'm just curious if either of you have created your target customer as an agent, and then showed that agent your prototype and got feedback from your target customer, and what was that like? If you could provide it.
Yeah, so the question was, have you tried using these tools to actually create a target customer virtual, so synthesized customer, and then use that to validate your what you've built against it?
Yeah, so that's typically one of the priming documents that I'm preparing for my product manager. So I'll have target customer personas that sits in there as relevant knowledge. And then I'll also spin up those personas as well and ask them, as each organization like grows into its AI journey, one of the challenges that I'm finding at the moment is like what the right handoff point and handshake is between the organizational knowledge, which is like locked inside whatever tool they're using, and then my own more flexible system within, whether it be Gemini or Claude or Perplexity. And honestly, I use all of them for different things. So sometimes having these consistent documents that you can feed across. Typically for me, those personas are sitting in Claude, and I'm just like, have them on call as my little kind of shadow team to help out.
Yeah, and the answer is yes. I have actually built quite a complicated agent, which I can give personas, and I can give websites, and I can give goals, and then it goes and does an assessment of it. So yes, but it's quite complicated. I vibe coded it.
Question there.
Quick one. This context engineering is something actually I became aware of this weekend watching another thing, but all that behind the scenes context will give to Lord Code. But I was wondering if you thought, and maybe even stumbled across that becoming actually a constraint later on.
How do you mean?
Well, you're defining rules.
Yeah.
Right now to guide something from going off track or giving more context. But I think potentially as models develop, I think that it could become a constraint or something you might get.
Yeah. So the question was around as things get more complicated, do you think the ability to specify your context is going to get, essentially, I guess, too hard?
Yeah, I mean, I actually made this for this demo, so it's not exactly the process that I follow. I have a slightly different, and that's because my process has evolved. I have a couple of different tools and a couple of different ways of thinking. Ultimately, the tools will eventually be able to do this. So I think ultimately it will get a lot simpler. In fact, Claude Code has a built-in planning tool. Claude Code has a built-in what does it have? Planning and also and task manager. Like, so it will do some of the things, but it doesn't show you how it does it. And I like to understand. So which is why I sort of built the simplified version of it. Does it? I think like the idea of context engineering is keeping it on the rail so it delivers something that is predictable. But you don't really want to be so much on rails that it just delivers exactly what you want. But you need to give it enough sort of guardrails so that it can be creative within the space that you've given it. I think that's really the skill. So yeah, that would be my approach for it. Like, these are things that you can't do. Don't do this; it will break it. But everything else is fine. Go and see what you can do.
One of the challenges that I find, and I wonder if you guys are feeling the same way, where it's like, oh, cool, I'm going to steal David's repo. I have no idea what's in it, but it's going to get me great results. But then when I don't get what I want, I never fully owned what I put in there. So one of the really good techniques is to like express openly and regularly with the model. And like, if you're not getting the outcome that you want, say that and ask it to pinpoint why specifically it's doing that. And it may bring that back to you. But similarly, like a lot of the prompt engineering techniques that are now like all over YouTube, for example, they say like how to guard against hallucinations, which is now not really a thing as much to worry about. And I believe that they put some intelligence into the prompting that kind of disregards that and doesn't prioritize it. So like, it's like both, if it's a problem, speak to it, and also you'll find occurring in a decreasing frequency.
A question online, which is kind of related to that. And the question from Jake is, how can we balance human intervention with AI's unrestricted creativity? So I think what he's getting at there is that if we're too explicit, we lose out on some of the benefits of the generative side. If we're not explicit enough, it goes out and hallucinates some disco task manager apps. And the question is like, have you experienced this before? And, how have you kind of gone about seeking that balance?
Yeah, one of the interesting challenges that I'm dealing with at the moment is how to communicate a prototype within an organization. Obviously, these models have the ability to create a fully fledged working prototype or mock-up that is just 10 times better than someone could do in an hour. And so actually, how do you set the scene for that so that people know what they're looking at? So I did get asked recently to take it back to black and white and like rip out all of the fancy stuff. And I ended up coding, like designing a prototype style that has prototype like written all over it so that we can distinguish that. But that is like a really interesting like human to AI, human in the loop challenge within an organization. And these things kind of pop up and there's literally no roadmap. There's no framework for this yet because it's so new. So I think like the Product AI channel on Slack for Product Data is a really great place to share these things and develop these ways of working so that the next person who strikes them will be like, we could do it this way. So it's one way that I've encountered it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not answering the question directly, but what I heard was like, what's the balance of the human versus the agent, I suppose. And I think what blows my mind is the possibility. So going from that sort of exploration to execution mode, and I could just set Claude off and I could get it to build 10 prototypes. And I feel like in that exploration mode, it's a bit like a fruit machine. You know how you sort of pull it like that, and then and then maybe 3 cherries come up, but probably not actually, but maybe one does. But you could pull that like 10 times and go test that with 10 different people, and you'll go, well, that one's a cherry, and that one's a cherry, and that one's a cherry as well. And then you could pull that together, get Claude to make a PRD out of that, but then use your taste as well. I think this is the really important thing, like humans taste, like get the AI to say, here's the 3 that we think are right. But I didn't go through it enough today, but with that plan, I would meticulously look at that and make sure that was right before I started a build, because that's where things go wrong. If it's not right there, you can't expect it to magically fix itself afterwards. So that concept of human taste and looking at what it's done and using your experience and your wisdom to really direct it, I think that's what the trade-off is. But these are just tools, and they're going to make us better and faster and much more awesome, obviously. But the humans, they're a really important part of this equation as well, is my very firm belief.
And the comment from Ross in the chat is sometimes it's a lemon that comes up on the fruit machines. I guess one thing I would just add to that is, so my mental model for all of this is, think of yourself as working with a bunch of probably interns / graduate engineers. You've probably inwardly had this conversation with you already, like, how much do I need to be absolutely explicit with them and define every single last parameter that they need to deal with and design and whatnot, versus let them have a bit of creativity. It's exactly the same model as working with humans. So that's, I find a useful mental model for thinking about that.
That's a great point, Anthony. I think like everything about how you work with agents has a nice analogy with how you might work with colleagues, to the point where I almost think of them as colleagues. Gemini 2.5, for example, my tech lead.
There's a question in the room over there.
Thank you for sharing tonight. And my question is, if I only have $20 budget per month, which platform do you recommend to open a membership? My daily work like 50% for my development for my apps, and like 30% for daily question and 20% to do assignment. So I see that just now you show the cloud code can recognize image, but right now Gemini CLI cannot. So I prefer to open the cloud code.
Yeah, so the question was, if you had $20 a month to spend and you sort of got a balanced workload of some development and some research and whatnot, what would you use? What's with $20 a month, David?
$20 US. You won't get anything for 20 New Zealand dollars, I'm afraid, or not that I'm aware of. AI Studio is free, so that's a pretty good price point. But if I had $20 US, it would be Claude I would get, because it will do the assistant. It will give you rate limited access to Claude code as well, and I suspect Claire has the same.
Yeah, I would choose Claude Code as the primary choice. Again, it's that US dollar thing. A lot of them let you use it up until a point. So you can use ChatGPT up until a point. You can use AI Studio. There's a certain amount of things that you can call a day. And then, I mean, it's like Manus and DeepSeek and a bunch of other ones. But I guess when you're hopping around, you pay a cost in hopping around and not building context by in your own time having to shift across. And it's like you're constantly briefing a new member of the team. Like imagine if you just had a constant parade of interns. So you pay for that in other ways. So.
All right, we're a little bit over time, so we'll hold the questions there. Can we give a big round of applause for our presenters, David and Claire? Now, I have a question for everyone in the audience. One of the key things we were trying to achieve tonight was give everyone enough knowledge to go away and give this a go tomorrow or maybe in the weekend. Can you put your hand up if this is something you're going to go away and give a go? All right, mission accomplished. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I want to also give a special shout out to David and Claire. We were live demoing tonight. You know, all of you have experienced the demo gremlins. So I want to say a massive shout out when I said, hey, I want to do this live. They didn't freak out and tell me I was crazy. So thank you so much for that. So there are a few more questions that were in the chat, and no doubt some of you got questions that you weren't able to ask. As Claire mentioned and David mentioned, we do have a Product Aotearoa Slack channel. If you go to productaotearoa.org.nz, there's a link to join that channel at the top of the page. In there, there's a channel in there, Products and AI. There's lots of great discussion. We've got lots of people in New Zealand who are really leading thinkers in this space, trying out all sorts of interesting, crazy stuff. Do join that. It's the best way to learn about these techniques. Lots of interesting discussions going on in there. That will help you in your day-to-day.
Including Claire and I.
Yeah, and Claire, and if you want to continue the conversation, if you've got specific questions for either of them, if you're in the room, you're most welcome to come and chat with them afterwards. If you're online, drop a note into that channel, and Claire or David or Sahil or one of the other amazing people in our community will happily jump in and help. I've put lots of questions in there myself.